Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of today's podcast. On this podcast episode, I will be talking about The Godfather. The Godfather is a movie that I've always wanted to just talk about. The storyline, the world of the story, the characters in the story, the philosophy behind it, the justice system, what led to the Godfather movie. These are things that I've always wanted to talk about, even including when there was the rise of Kevin Samuel and there was like the Godfather all over the place. I've always wanted to just take that time to deep dive into the Godfather movie. I've always wanted to take the time to deep dive into the Godfather movie to see what we can pull out of it and what we can attribute to this current day and age and what we can learn from it and see if this world is much needed. When you hear about the Godfather, when you hear the word the Godfather, I'm pretty sure something that comes in your mind is mafias, suits, coats, trench coats, and fedoras. And that's the world that was portrayed in the movie. However, prior to that world, the term Godfather was always used in Italian culture to denote a spiritual father to a child. It had nothing to do with gangster, or it had nothing to do with mobs or mafias. So, after going through the story, we will be touching on things that I would like you guys to stay tuned to and learn from, or at some point also share your thoughts about the movie, about the world in the movie. And we will be talking about so many things. Like I said, this is a topic that I've always been interested in, that I've always wanted to talk about, but time, and not just time, hasn't permitted me to, but because I kept studying the book, I kept watching the movies. I've seen the movies over 4 to 5 times, and I'm talking about between last year and this year. I've seen the movie more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. I've seen The Godfather Part 1, The Godfather Part 2, The Godfather Part 3. The Godfather Part 3, I really didn't take too much cognizance to it because of the fact that it felt like it wasn't really needed, because Godfather 1 was about Michael's ascension to power, and Godfather 2 was about Don Corleone's ascension to power. So the movie, even from the very first part, had already come to full circle. And the second one had also already come to full circle. And the two of them had already come to like a full dual, a dual full circle. So the third one wasn't that much needed. However, the director of the movie, Francis Ford Coppola, he said he didn't see it as Godfather 3. Instead, he said he sees it as the death of Michael Corleone, which makes a lot of sense. In this session, we will be taking a look at The Godfather. I'm talking about Don Corleone, his lifestyle, his beginning, his rise to power, and his death. We will be touching a bit about Michael Corleone too. We'll be talking about him a little bit, and maybe other characters. However, I want us to focus more on the lifestyle of Don Corleone, how he came to being, how he rose to power, how he became the Godfather. We will take a look at the world of the story. I'll be talking about this from a filmmaker's perspective and also just an observer perspective, someone who just wants to observe the story. So I might be getting a little technical when I'm mentioning things like the world of the story, the character, the tone, things like that. But keep in mind, we will be focusing more on Don Corleone and a lot less on Michael Corleone, who is the son of Don Corleone in the movie. I want us to take a look at his lifestyle and see the central focus of the movie itself. The Godfather essentially is a movie that revolves around three key things that I observed. The first one is capitalism, the second one is the ascension to power, and the final one is family. There are other things in it. I'm not going to be touching about the violence or the gangsterism or whatever that's in the movie. I'm more looking into those key things and then the generic or the general movie environment and how things were happening step by step as to what led to, most especially, the rise or the need for Don Corleone to emerge as the Godfather. So, by the end of this video, we will be taking a look at the birth, the life, and death of Don Corleone, how he moved from Italy to America, how and why he moved from Italy to America. Who is the Godfather? What is the Godfather? Why is the Godfather essential in that world? Why is he existing in that world? The world of the story. We'll be taking a look at the world of the story, the philosophy and justice system in the movie. What is the main focus of Don Corleone as a person? What is his main focus? Is he a man of justice or a man that just wants to wield power over people? We'll be taking a look at that. Look at his lifestyle, what he believes in, how he moves, his relationship with people, his relationship with his family, his relationship with people who trust him and welcomes him as a friend. What are the rules in the movie? What are the rules in the movie? Or what are the rules in the world of the story? Because if I'm saying the movie, yeah, it's the movie. Now, I'm going to be talking from the perspective of both the movie, the novel, and some generalities as well. So if I'm saying the world of the story, I'm including the movie and also some fictional things that happened that can be attributed to real life. Now, keep in mind that The Godfather is a fictional movie. However, things that happen there are things that can still be attributed to real life. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when the writer, Mario Puzo, the original writer of the movie, not Francis Ford Coppola, because Francis Ford Coppola was responsible for the screenplay and the directing. Also, the screenplay was in collaboration with Mario Puzo. Now, Mario Puzo, when he was writing the movie, there were things happening in the world around the time when he wrote the movie, and he also observed the life of real gangsters when he was writing the book, actually. So, when he was setting the world, he also made mention of people like Adolf Hitler, people, the law enforcement, during that era, the lifestyle, the pimps, and the prostitution going on around there. He makes mention of that in the real world setting. So it's a fictional book, but it was revolving around natural things that's happening, things that happen in real life. For example, he also made mention that all the characters in the book were inspired by real life characters of his family, his brothers, his sisters, and in fact, he said Don Corleone in the movie was inspired by his mother. Everything that you hear Don Corleone say in the movie, or everything that you hear his character say in the book, was inspired by his mother. So, even though it's a fictional book, it has the bone work, the skeletal work of real life events revolving around it. Now, keep in mind that when you're writing a book or when you're telling a story or when you're making a movie, you want to exaggerate a little bit for the sole purpose of entertaining the audience, grabbing their attention, holding their attention, and making sure they are immersed in the world of the story. So, even though it's a fictional story, we would also take a look at it and attribute it to some real world settings, okay? And why the Godfather and the whole entire Corleone family or the mafia family was necessary back in those days. Also, the persona of the Godfather And I just wanted to. I've always wanted to touch on this one because around the time when Kevin Samuel came into the limelight, talking about the Godfather persona, the question was why did it gain so much traction? Why were so many people tuning into his shows? Why were so many people paying attention? What was the main reason as to why a lot of people were watching him and engaging and seeing the essence of what he's doing? Because if they are not getting anything from him, he was having close to 20,000 people watching his life in the moment, trying to figure out what's wrong with the society. What can we do to solve this problem? And it was so powerful to the point where even after his death, his videos are still gaining millions and millions of traction in viewership. Why was that happening? The Godfather persona is something that we will look into. I'm not saying from this, like I said, The Godfather is a fictional movie. However, the fictional aspect of it has the skeletal framework of real life semblances. So it's something worth looking into. This whole video is not meant to give you the answer or the solution to anything. I'm not fixing anything. I'm just bringing up our consciousness to what's happening, what happened, and what could happen. The Godfather persona. Now, another thing to look at is, will there be another Godfather? Or will there be another Godfather persona that can identify what's going on? And is this persona needed? Those are the things that we'll be taking a look at. And also, Michael Corleone. Like I said, this whole session is much more focused on Don Corleone, Don Vito Corleone. But we'll be talking about his son, Michael Corleone, because there is something significant about him and the world of the story. And there's a reason why we want to observe him too, because he himself, there is so many things to learn from him. But when it got to Michael Corleone, the movie got pretty violent and bloody, and I'm not really focused on that. I'm more focused on the philosophy, the principle, the guidance, the justice. Remember I said the whole movie centers around three things. First, capitalism, which is business of the family, the ascension to power, and also family. I want to centralize this entire podcast session around that, and then the reason behind it. Now, like I said, Michael Corleone, we're going to talk about him. Why he changed his mind, how he changed his mind, and how he became who he was at the end of the first Godfather movie. At the end of the movie, he was standing, and in fact, let me say it from the point of view of the novel. The novel said that his wife Kay saw him and saw the other compadres kissing his hand and calling Michael the Godfather. And Michael stood like the Roman god, like one of those Roman gods that has the power of life and death over his fellow gods and mankind. That was Michael's ascension to power. Like I said, Godfather 1 was all about Michael's ascension to power. What led to that? We will take a look at that. Another thing we will take a look at the end of this session is, will our world be better if we let families run the government? I know you guys won't like that. I know the government won't like this. But we will take a look at that. We'll take a look at that. So before I go in any further, this session will consist of spoilers. Okay? A lot of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, now is the time for you to go take a look at the movie. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Like I said, there will be a bunch of spoilers ahead, and you've been warned. So if you haven't seen it, pause. We're going to wait for you, and you can go see the movie. Welcome back. The Godfather was supposed to be a cheap gangster flick. However, it turned out to revolutionize the entire Hollywood industry when it came out. The reason being that prior to the time The Godfather was released, Hollywood was filled with movies that were not really making as much impact as they needed it to make. The last movie before The Godfather that was generating a huge amount of traction was Sound of Music and Gone with the Wind. And it was then noted that Hollywood was going artistically bankrupt. And that was why they reached out to directors to direct the Godfather movie. However, before Francis Ford Coppola took the movie, 12 directors were actually reached out to, and 12 of them rejected it. Francis Ford Coppola mentioned that he took the movie because he was broke and he needed to pay some debt. However, when he took the movie ended up becoming one that revolutionized the entire Hollywood industry because of the fact that he looked into inducing two European techniques, the French avant-garde and Italian new realism, to create surreal movie scene that would evoke physical and psychological intensity on its audience. Prior to that, movies were being shot in studios. But when Francis Ford Coppola was going to shoot it, he was shooting in locations just to create the maximum impact or effect possible on its audience. Let's talk about the world of the story. In the movie, a character was introduced. It was the character of the Undertaker. The character started off by telling a tale, a story about what happened to his daughter. The name of the Undertaker in the beginning of the movie was Bonacera. He shared a tale of how he has been in America and he has been living the American dream, following the American rule. And his daughter met this guy that she was dating, and eventually they decided to go out to see a movie, and this guy tries to have sex with the daughter and forced the daughter to have sex with them, but the daughter disagreed. She kept her integrity, she kept her dignity. However, this guy lashed out and assaulted her physically without having sex with the daughter. So Bonacera took them to the court. In the court of law, those guys were charged to 3 years of imprisonment because they never had sexual assault with a lady. It was just physical assault. However, her jaws were damaged. It was tied together with strings. So the judge sent those guys to 3 years imprisonment, which was suspended on that very day. That really pissed Bonacera off because his daughter was in the hospital, and when those boys were leaving the courtroom, they smiled at him, and he was infuriated. And then he told his wife that for justice, we must go to Don Corleone. That's how we met the Godfather in the movie. In the novel, they introduced 3 main characters with big issues: Bonacera, Nazarene, and Johnny Fonte. Johnny Fonte is the Godfather's godson. Nazarene was a baker who has been friends with Don Corleone for a very long time. And then Bonacera is the Undertaker who doesn't want to relate to what the Godfather does because he believes that the Godfather's tactics were old and could easily land him in jail because now Bonacera is in America. And even his first name from the movie is Amerigo Bonacera, to indicate that he believes in the American democratic culture. And that's why he doesn't want to relate with the Godfather. So from all the three main characters, we see the world of the story. The world of the story introduces Don Corleone. Now, the reason why they introduced these three main characters and their issue was to show us who Don Corleone is. At the very beginning of the movie, or at the very beginning of the novel, both, Don Corleone, the Godfather, was introduced as a problem solver. He solves problem. In fact, there's a portion of the novel that says there is no problem he can't solve. There is no way he says no to those he loves. I mean, he said he could say it, but if you love people, you don't say no to those whom you love. You convince them to say no by themselves. Also, at the very beginning of the movie, we see them having a wedding, an Italian wedding. And one of the reasons why these people came to him was because there is this Italian tradition that no father or no godfather resists anyone that makes a request of him on the wedding of his daughter. And that's why these three main people came to see him. So Bonazera relates the world of the story, which is the world that's in opposition of the world of the Godfather. The reason why we had those two other people was to show that two other people, which is Nazarene and Johnny Fonte, they agree with what the Godfather does. Bonazera does not agree. In the novel, Bonazera was the last person that the Godfather allows to bring his request. And he said he wants his Sonny to be there, and the consigliere, Tom Hagen. But in the film, Bonazera was the very first person that we see. Also, I would like to mention right now, before it skips my mind, that The Godfather is, when Francis Ford Coppola saw the movie, he said he sees it as the story of a king with three sons. One son who's very ruthless, driven by passion and emotion. Another son who's driven by logic, and then the cunning one. But that's not the most important thing. I just want us to know who Don Corleone is and his family, because we will be going into the family aspect of it. Still talking about the world that revolves around the Godfather. We see the Godfather as a problem solver at the very beginning, and we see that there is no problem he can't solve, like most other men who are like, oh, my hands are tied. His hands, there's nothing that can tie his hand. He has all the connections, he has all the power, he has all the necessary resources. And if it gets to a point where you are unconvincible to do something that the Godfather needs you to do, he will reason with you. When he says, I'll reason with you, that's the thing he says before he makes you an offer you can't resist. And if he makes you an offer you can't resist, and you choose not to take that offer, well, you have to go swim with the fish, or you wake up with the head of a horse on your bed. Either of those two things. However, back to The Godfather, we get to know who The Godfather is. We get to know the world of the story. In this world of the story, Bonazera tells the tale of how he's been Americanized, how he's following the rules of democracy, and how going to the courtroom, the courts, the justice system, the police system, and how they've all failed him, setting up this character of the Godfather in this world of the story. Now, we've seen the world of the democratic system that has failed Amerigo Bonazera, and now we're getting to see the world of the Godfather, the world that can fix the problem, that can bring true justice that the democratic system is missing. The Godfather. The Godfather is the rule in this world. He's the sun, he's the rain, he's the power, he's the heaven, he's the hell. He's the one that makes everything happen in this world. His rule, he's the rule of the story. The Godfather has everything attributed to him. It determines what happens. It determines who you marry, because when you're about to get married, you need the Godfather's blessing. He determines what happens to his godson. Even Johnny Fontaine was his godson. Johnny Fontaine wanted a specific role, and he's all the way in California. But the director of the movie wasn't going to give the role to Johnny Fontaine in the movie because of the fact that Johnny Fontaine has the voice that raises ladies up. And he said he's not going to give it to him because Johnny Fontaine made him look ridiculous. And a man like him cannot afford to look ridiculous. So he said he's not going to give the role to Johnny Fontaine. And then Johnny Fontaine decided to go to meet to talk to his godfather. And his godfather said, "What is going on?" First and foremost, Johnny Fontaine came in and he was crying. In the movie, you see him crying. Johnny Fontaine was crying. In the movie, you see him crying. However, in the novel, it goes more in depth. He was crying because he lost his family. One, he divorced his wife, and his wife was having custody of his child to get married to a beautiful actress who was sleeping with everyone. So he was losing reputation. He was losing his personality and his voice. He was also losing his voice, so his popularity was dwindling. And if he gets this acting role, he would be, at least he can get back to the top of the pyramid where he used to be and keep the ball rolling again. However, this director said he's not going to give it to him because the director doesn't like to look ridiculous. Because Johnny Fontaine, the director said that he's been grooming this actress, the most beautiful actress he's ever groomed, talent, this and that. He wants to make her famous and make money off her, but Johnny Fontaine comes, uses voice, and the girl runs away with Johnny Fontaine. So he's not going to give him the role. And then the Godfather sends Tommy Hagen. Now, all of those things, we see the Godfather saying, talking to Johnny Fontaine. And he said two main things that I want us to, I would like to draw our attention to us. He snaps Johnny Fontaine and he says, "Is that what you're going to be doing? Crying? You got to be a man. You got to act like a man." Because that's the world of the Godfather. You need to act tough, act like a man, be strong and be courageous. The second thing was when he asked him, "You spend time with your family?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Good." I'm talking about the Godfather now. He said, "Good," because a man that doesn't spend time with his family is not a real man. So if you want to be a real man, you need to spend time with your family, which is kind of powerful because the movie has a lot of quotable lines. In fact, we'll be going through a bunch of those quotable lines, which is very powerful because, like I said, all the characters were inspired by a real life character. And the character of the Godfather, the writer, Mariposo, said that character was inspired by his mother, which means every time you see the Godfather speaking, that's his mom speaking, which means that line was actually spoken by his mom. Tricky, right? Tricky. This is one of the reasons why I couldn't come up with like I said, I've been thinking about doing this session for months and weeks, and I was just reading and watching the movie, and I didn't know what route I wanted to go, if I want to go the filmmaking route or the film analysis route or the general word analysis route. But at the end of the day, I decided to make up my mind, and I said I would just combine both. I'll talk about everything I can talk about. Okay? So we see the Godfather tell Johnny Fontaine to act like a man, and he tells him he will fix the problem because he's the Godfather. The Godfather fixes every problem. The Godfather fixes every problem, especially if you belong in the family, which is one of the issues America Bonazira had at the very beginning. In the movie, we see the Godfather mad at Amerigo Bonazira because Amerigo Bonazira, instead of coming straight to the Godfather, he went to the law, and the law just made him look funny because the democratic system was failing and the families were falling apart. And so the Godfather looked at him like, why would you do that? This is your family. The only thing he asked from people was friendship, the noteworthy pronouncing of him as the Godfather. That's all he asked for. And then he tells them, I might call for your help later in the future. As long as I have your loyalty, we are friends. And if you're my friends, then people will fear you because you have a friend like me, the Godfather, who can do anything, who is the law of the land. It doesn't need to be open, but that's the law. However, one thing I also want to point out was in this section, when Amerigo Bonozira, when he was talking to the Godfather, and he said, "What do you want?" Amerigo Bonozira whispered into his ears, and the Godfather said, "That is not justice." And it was like, the Godfather said, "Because your daughter is still alive," which means Amerigo Bonozira was telling him to kill those boys. But he said he's not going to kill him because his daughter was still alive. It's justice. And that was the law that was guiding them back then. It was the blood code of family, the law of family. When families come together, it becomes almost like anti-democracy because the law is in the hand of the family. It was the law of an eye for an eye. If you do something to my family, which is bad, then my family would do the same thing, perhaps with an extra punch. That was the law that was guiding the family back then. And Amerigo Bonzira doesn't want to be in that world anymore. He wants to be in the world of democracy where the law imprisons people who do wrongfulness, where the law gets people, where people are sentenced to prison, where people, they get parking tickets, they go to hear both sides in the court of law. And it didn't work for him pretty much. And that's why he said, for justice, we must go to Don Corleone, who is the world of the story, the ruler of this world in the story. When The Godfather came back then, it gave America its own brand of Hamlet, or perhaps Oedipus. And it was just one of those fascinating stories where you can tell what's going to happen in the end right from the beginning. And you see the main character of the story fighting, fighting to not be a part of the world. The main character of this story was actually Michael Corleone. But like I said, I want us to focus on the lifestyle of Don Corleone. Don Corleone was born in Italy. He used to be with his dad, and his dad used to train him on how to use the Italian gun. So he was really good at it, and people knew that he was really good at it. So his dad had a clash with the mafia, I believe, and he kills the mafia. So this mafia knows someone, and they sent other mafias after his dad, and the other mafia killed his dad. And then they decide to try and kill Don Corleone when he was a boy because of the fact that he knows how to use the gun, and they are presuming that he's going to come for revenge when he grows up. So this was actually in The Godfather Part 2. We see Don Corleone's mom. We see his mom go talk to this mafia head and tells him that leave if you can have this offering, just leave my son alone. The mafia head was like, no, and she pulls out a machete and puts it in his neck like she was going to kill him. And they grabbed the lady right there. Don Corleone was there. He was about 12 years old. They killed his mom right there in his prison, and he ran. And while he was running, they were pursuing him. So he gets on a boat. He comes to America. He changes his name, and he kept the Corleone last name to remind him of where he's from. I believe where he was from was the Corleone. That was like the name of his village. So coming to America, He grew up as an immigrant. When he was in his teenage years, he got a job working for a baker, and he got married at a very young age. He marries a lady who was in her late teenage years, I believe, to start a family. So while he was working, he he was observing the world around him, and he could see that there were people who believe in the so-called democracy, and there were people who don't, people who will always prey on the weak. So there was this particular man in the second Godfather movie. You see him, he's always wearing, is a big dude wearing a suit. He was extorting people, he was taxing people, and he would go and tax people and take money from them, the money they've made. However, he was only extorting the older folks who don't have male children, because the Italian then were also very aggressive. And if you are extorting people with male children, there's always a tendency for them to fight. And he was observing this thing, and there were these boys who came after that guy that was extorting people, and they sliced his throat. This so they sliced his throat. They did not kill him, and he ran home to clean up the whole wound and everything. So a few days later, they found those boys dead. Don Corleone notices that, okay, these boys did not kill you, but you have proven yourself to be a murderer because you killed them for what they did to you. Now, remember I said Americo Bonazira was asking Don Corleone to kill those two boys that assaulted his daughter, and he said, no, that's not justice. Don Corleone is always for justice. Eye for an eye, not an eye for the entire body. So that's kind of pissed him off. Now, this extortionist did something to the point where Don Corleone had to eventually lost his job, and he had to provide for his family. And in order for him to provide for his family, he joined a small gang with two guys, Clemenza and Tessio, and they would go out and rob fabric truck or truck carrying textiles and fabric, and they will split the money. So while they were splitting this money, this extortionist, this guy that's extorting everyone, realizes and discovers that they were doing that. So he comes in and he says he wants cuts, and he wants like a ludicrous amount of cuts from what they're making. This you wouldn't get the full detail if you watch the second movie, because they were really speaking in Italian for the most part. You would have to read the novel itself. And he said he wants a portion of their cut. The other guys, Clemenza and Terzio, were like, this guy is crazy. You can't just stay. You can't just not give him whatever he's asking for. So they told Don Corleone. Don Corleone says he's going to reason with him, and he chooses to reason with the guy. At the end of the day, the guy proves to be one that you can't reason with. So Don Corleone fashions out a way to take him out, pretty much. And it got to a point where everyone in the society knew that Don Corleone actually did it. But they did not, no one pointed a finger to the police, because he almost became like a vigilante, like a neighborhood watch, someone that was watching over people of the neighborhood, and they wanted him to do it. Now, remember I said the extortionist was taxing people. So when after he was um, calculatively killed by Don Corleone, those people that were paying their taxes to this guy, they were no longer paying taxes to anyone. So they came to Don Corleone and they said, no, we want you to take this, because they wanted someone to just look out for them and not the law of the land, because the law of the land was slow, ineffective, corrupt, and it's not going to look out for you. So they wanted him to do it, and he said no. So the people actually self appointed Don Corleone to become the godfather that watches over them. That's why I said this is going to focus on the life of Don Vito Corleone, not even Michael. Now, all this is happening is what led to the establishment or the creation of the world of the Godfather. A world where we have one man who is the law of the land, who's the protector of the land, who gives his approval on what happens on the land, who sets things straight in the land, who makes sure the families stay together. In fact, it got to a point where a portion of the book said that if the families were allowed to rule the societies, the World War One, the First World War, wouldn't have happened because the families would have taken care of things. In fact, it was Clemenza when he was talking to Michael Corleone, and he said, at a point where he said every 10 years the mafia families always go to war, and he said at the beginning you have to stop them, and he said that's what should have happened when Hitler started the Second World War at Munich, that they should have stopped him at that very point, but because of due process, because of democracy, because of the law of the land, because of the court proceedings and all those things, it was delayed and he penetrated and boom, there was Second World War, Hitler's war. Point that the movie was showcasing the strength of family, the strength of when families come together, they can make things happen. They can protect one another. They can negotiate the right way. They can make everything stick together to lead towards the growth of that family culture. And that's how The Godfather came to being. Now, when we see The Godfather, we see so many things. Even up until the point where even though he's a gangster, right? Even though he's a gangster and he kind of tries to get people to do things that he wants them to do because he's the law of the land, we get to realize that he wasn't that much of an evil guy. He doesn't do drugs. And how did we realize this? They introduced this villainous character called Salazar. Now, the Godfather was appointed by the people to tax the people, right? And people loved him. People wanted him to look out for them. And when people have issues, they come to him, even though not everyone agrees. Everyone, like someone like Bonazira, doesn't agree with that. Some people don't agree with him, and some people still see him as a mafia, a bad guy. Of course, in order to protect people, he needs to do some stuff to make sure people are protected, especially if it's protecting people against a stubborn villain. So this new villain was introduced, Salazar, and he was into narcotics and drugs. And the Godfather said, no, he's not going to do that because there's a line. And he said something in that scene. He said, I don't care what a man does to make his money. However, narcotic is where I draw the line. And he politely rejects Salazar. And we see even his first male son, Sonny, he was going to say something and he shuts him right. They said, never let someone outside the family know what you're thinking. I love that scene because he was showing the point of family stays together. Remember, like I said, this movie is all about business, capitalism, ascension to power, and family. He said, family stay together. You don't share what you're thinking with someone outside family, which also, which later on we see Michael quotes a line that's similar to that when he tells his brother that never take a stand against the family, especially when you're dealing with an outsider. So family is so important to these people, and I'm not even talking about the Fast and Furious family. I'm talking about the Don Corleone family and family in general. And I know this thing because even in sociology, when we talk about individualism and collectivism, um, we live in this modern day culture that promotes individualistic tendencies, characteristics in everything that we do. We're telling everyone to be strong and independent. You could do it by yourself. You could live alone. You should live in your apartment by yourself. You should do it by yourself. You should not rely on your family. You should, everything is you, 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 you. It's a self-induced, self-interest, selfish. You see people say things like, I'm going to be selfish this year. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to do myself first, and one of the greatest thing I've learned is if you want to conquer a culture or anyone, the first thing you need to do is isolate them from people that can look out for them. The moment you isolate them, then you can conquer them. So, if the world that wasn't working in that movie, which is the world of democracy, if that world wants to conquer the world that was working in the movie, which is the world of the family, the bloodline of family, the very first thing that they have to do is find a way to isolate them. And that's how we got introduced to Michael. Funny enough, Michael is the son of the Godfather, but Michael was introduced as someone that wasn't part of the family. Because the very first time that we saw Michael, he wasn't even dressed as a family. He was wearing a Marine uniform because he had gone to fight with people who are not part of his bloodline. And you have to read that detail in the novel because the father, Don Corleone, didn't like it. He did everything in his power to convince him from not joining the Marine, because when you join the Marine, that's almost like a spit on the Godfather's power or the Godfather's reputation or what he stands for. But Michael doesn't care. He joins the Marine and then he comes in to his sister's wedding wearing the Marine uniform, knowing that all the family will be there and everyone that supports his dad will be there. And then not only that, he comes in with an American woman. And we all know that Italians are all about family. And if you want to just stir something up, that's one way to do it. Bring in an outsider. And even in the movie, when he was going to take the photo, Mike was in the picture. The American woman wasn't there, who is Kay. She wasn't in the picture. Before the picture was going to be taken, they were going to have a group picture, and the dad was like, no, I'm not going to take a picture without Mike. And then when Mike joins the photo, Mike was like, I'm not going to take the picture without my American girlfriend. So he stops the whole picture, drags Kay into it, which is like, he just wants to do everything to downgrade the world that was being created. He was fighting for democracy, and his dad was standing for family. So, as much as we've identified everything about that world of that story and Don Corleone, and we see him from his from his childhood to how he came to America as an immigrant, to how eventually he became a neighborhood watch, protecting the neighborhood, talking on behalf of people. There was a lady that he helped her to retain a house. He was pretty much just helping families. Okay? Like I said, I'm not going to deep dive into the gangster aspect or the barbaric aspect or the bloodshed aspect of the story. I want us to just focus on the role of the Godfather. The Godfather was a father to people who were related to him by blood and people who would acknowledge him as the Godfather. One of the sons that he has in the movie was Tom Hagen. Tom Hagen was an orphan that the Godfather's blood son, Sonny, the first son, he was playing around on the street and he found Tom Hagen. Tom Hagen back then was an orphan, and Sonny brings him home and tells his dad he doesn't have a place to stay. Tom Hagen actually had an eye disease, which wasn't, you wouldn't see that in the movie. That was in the novel. He had an eye disease, and he thought he was gonna go blind. And Don Corleone brings him in, um, takes him to the hospital, fixes his eye, and adopts him as a son. Tom Hagen was going to change his last name to Corleone, and Don Corleone tells him not to do that, that it would be a form of disrespect to his original parents. And he tells him to keep his last name, which is Tom Hagen. And there's so many family values that we would seek. Right now, I'm just kind of like thinking about everything. Um, One of the key family values that was in the movie was uh, we see Don Corleone's daughter, Connie. She was married to Carlos. And Carlos is someone that he he marries into the Corleone family, hoping to be taken care of because he's marrying to a wealthy family, and he's a very good looking guy. So Kanye wasn't as good looking as Carlos. So he takes advantage of her and he does some things to her. He physically assaults her. He tarnishes her. He says things to her to hurt her feelings. And Kanye will be crying. And so when Kanye cries, she will go to her mom, and her mom would tell Don Corleone, "We should bring Kanye home." And Don Corleone would be like, "Why? Why should I interfere in the affair of another man's family?" The moment you interfere into another man's family, you are taking away his manhood away from him, because a man is supposed to stand for his family. Families will always have issues. The man's job is to fix those issues. The moment an outsider steps in, then you're not allowing him to be the man of his household. And I've seen this happen so much in churches too, whereby you see women go to church and they tell pastors, and they'll be like, I love my pastor," and then they post a picture of their pastor on social media. They post their pastor, "I love my pastor, I love my pastor. Oh, my pastor is the best man in the world. My pastor is like God himself. My pastor, my pastor, my pastor." And they're like, I love him so much. Oh, if only every man looks like my pastor. If only my husband can be like my pastor. To the point where grown men will be like, "Okay, you need to chill. Okay, you need to really chill, because now you're comparing one man to another man, which you shouldn't be doing." To the point where I've seen so many African pastors, even Dr. Miles Moore said something like that. He said, "Women, you need to respect your husband. Stop comparing your husband to the pastor. Your your husband is your husband. Your pastor is your pastor. Your husband was appointed by God to be the man of your household, to be the man of the family. Hence, you need to respect him." And that's another thing that I want to touch on in The Godfather, that the Godfather is a religious man. He's someone who believes in God and structure. I keep having this conversation. This conversation on structure keeps coming up. All right, so the structure in The Godfather is God, father, mother, and the child. Okay? God, father, mother, and the child. That's the structure. And that's why, in the end, we see Michael going to church, even though there's so many things happening. I don't want to use that kind of example. But we see him going to the Catholic Church because that's what they do. The Godfather is meant to be a Christian, or a representative of God on earth. So the father answers to God, the mother answers to the father, the child answers to the mother. And that's like the hierarchy in which things works in that world of the story. Okay, in that Godfather world, that's how things happen there. That's the world of the story. Okay, I'm not saying that's how you all should live your life. It's a fictional movie that's based on some symbionces of reality. And I'm not telling you that's how you should live your life. So don't even come for me. So we see the Godfather and we see all these attributes of him and how he's just doing things. He does his best to do the right thing. Okay. The right thing. Now, on his way to becoming who he was, he did so many things that morally we would disagree with. Like the killing of the guy who was extorting people. Morally, that's wrong. But the people loved him for that. And the people appointed him to look out for them. So that's one. Two, he has his family. He stays with his wife. He doesn't support people breaking up. He doesn't support people interfering in other people's family. He believes that your family is your once you choose your family, that is your family and you have to stick with it. The Godfather is also known for saying he's known for quoting this famous line that every man has one destiny. Every man has one destiny, which means you need to be focused. Once you know what you're designed to do, you stay focused on that path and you capitalize on that path. There's a portion of the book where he was doing so many things, and then at some point he realizes that he knows how to think. I'm talking about Don Vito Corleone when he was a child. That he knows how to think. He knows how to analyze. He knows how to fix problem. He knows how to do all these things, and people bring problem to him, and he fixes it. And now people are appointing him, and he has this calm demeanor. He never argues. He never fights. He never raises his voice. He just has a way of making people do things. And when he begins to realize these things about himself, it was like, I might be the Godfather. I am the Godfather. So there were characteristics of the Godfather. There was the Godfather persona, and then he became the Godfather. And that's how Don Corleone came to becoming the Godfather. Let's look at how Michael became the Godfather. Now, this is one of the most interesting part of the story because this was very calculative, very systematic, and you need to pay attention and listen to this carefully. Remember, Michael was established as someone that was against the word of the Godfather because we saw him wearing the Marine uniform. We saw him bringing in his American wife. We saw him going and joining the Marine, even though his father said, do not join the Marine. He was doing everything just to promote democracy, just to show democracy, just to be the Amerigo Bonazira of the family, right? Yeah, that was Michael. Michael wanted to be the Amerigo Bonazira of the family. However, he realizes that the democracy he was fighting for is soon about to fail him. And how did this happen? The Godfather, remember, is a movie that centers around family. And the code that binds the family together was the code of an eye for an eye, the code of revenge. The enemy of that code is the code of democracy, right? So, Michael doing what he's doing, and we've seen that this new villain that was introduced, I'm talking about Salazar, after he invites Don Corleone to join him in the narcotic business, and Don Corleone says no, he sends hitmen after Don Corleone and they shoot him. So Don Corleone becomes a victim. And that was where the systematic turning happens. So Don Corleone becomes a victim. He was put in the hospital. And he was supposed to be guarded by police, knowing the kind of person that he is. Michael comes home. He was told that his dad was shot. He says he wants to go see Kay. And on his way to see Kay, he goes to see Kay. On his way back, he decides to stop at the hospital. When he gets to the hospital, he noticed that there was no one protecting his dad. There were no police outside. There was no police inside the hospital. Everyone has left the hospital. His dad was just left in the open, vulnerable. Because after those hitmen were sent, when those hitmen were sent to shoot the Godfather, they shot him 5 times, but he still did not die. Now, the plan was to go to the hospital to finish him off. Michael getting to the hospital, seeing that there were no police there, he's beginning to realize that democracy is failing his dad. The policeman that was supposed to be there to watch over his dad were not there. The lawmen that were supposed to protect him or protect his dad were absent. No one there. His dad was just left in the open. And now Michael was forced to take initiative. And we see him rolling his dad from one room to the next room. And this guy, one of the guys that Nazarini came to the Godfather to help, the guy's name was Enzo. He was also there to pay homage to the Godfather after hearing that the Godfather was shot. Michael tells him to stay around, no, to leave because some men are coming and it's going to be a dangerous night. But Enzo said, no, the Godfather helped me, so I'm going to stay. This is where the blood code of family is really strong. You see that family always, when they stick together, you get the necessary help when you need it. So Michael tells him, okay, if you know you're going to stay, you have to stay and keep your hand in your coat and act like you have a gun. This is very systematic because we see Michael. Michael was against the world of the gangster. It was against the world of family. It was against the world of the Godfather. However, when he tells Enzo to keep his hand in his coat as if he has a gun, that was him acting like he's in this world of the Godfather without being in this world of the Godfather. And when they stood outside with their hands in their pocket, a car came. When the car pulls up, the car has a bunch of hitmen in the inside that car. And when they came and they saw Michael, the son of Don Corleone, and another man with their hands in their pockets, they drove off because they believed that they had guns. In the real world of the story, they didn't have a gun, but acting like gangsters saved them that night, at least until the police came. The police that did not, that planned with Salazar to have his dad killed, at least until they came. And private, because Tom Hagen also reached out to private police. I mean, Tom Hagen in collaboration with Sonny, the first son of Don Corleone. They reached out to private police for protection. So they were able to protect the Godfather by acting against what he believes in, the democratic system that's supposed to protect his dad. And from there, it kept going deeper. We see Mike, the police that was supposed to look out for his dad came and punched him in his face. And we just see Mike just going down that blood road until they had vengeance. And a portion of the book, you see him telling his dad, I'm here to take care of you. I'm back. I'm here to look out for you. Because Michael begins to see that the country that he's going out to fight for, the brothers that he's going out to bleed for, they are not acting like that when he needs them the most. In fact, they ignored his dad in the hospital. And that's why he had to step in. And eventually we see him keep stepping in and he keeps doing that until he became the Godfather. Because along the line, his elder brother, Sonny, was killed. Along the line, he was transferred to Italy for protection, and he got married there. His wife was killed. And along the line, he had to just he had to come back. His dad had to negotiate his return so he can take over from him and become the next Godfather. And we keep seeing all these things happening in the world of the story. And we see the essentiality of families just sticking together and how that strengthens them. The reason why I keep saying the family is because it's always two worlds, okay? It's always two worlds. We have the world that tells you to do things by yourself, the world that tells you, listen, it's the rule of law, it's the democratic world. Um, don't take revenge. Instead, seek justice by going to the courts. And we see the other world that brings swift justice. In the world of the Godfather, no one got off on technicalities. If you commit a crime, you will pay the fine, okay, regardless of who you are, and it's an equal fine to the crime. No one got off on technicalities, and the reason why that could stand was because families were sticking together. One of the reasons why I wanted to attribute Kevin Samuel to the Godfather, because I'm going to go back to Don Corleone. Kevin Samuel, God rest his soul. The reason why I decided to attribute him to the Godfather was because of what led to the Godfather. Now, in the movie, we have an idea of what led to the creation of the Godfather and why it was widely accepted by everyone and why people self-appointed Don Corleone to become the Godfather. We saw all these things, right? We saw all these things. Now, in this modern day and age, prior to Kevin Samuel becoming famous, we see democracy taking charge of everything. We see the government taking charge of everything. In fact, the government was taking charge of families. If you have a family, if you have a child and you're not raising your child the right way, the government can easily walk into your family and take your child away from you. If you're married to someone and you're not doing the right thing, or maybe your wife complains, the government will come and take the wife away from you and divorce and put you on child support. The problems of the family were no longer solved within the family. The problem of the family was solved by the government. And what the justice that the government was bringing in was something that people were like, we're not really in agreement with this kind of justice. So when Kevin Samuel came and he was like telling all the ladies, okay, I need y'all to wear your thinking hat. I need y'all to use your brain, okay? Be realistic. What do you want? We're trying to keep our family together because the only way you can stand a chance in the long run is if families stay together. Hello? The only way we can stand a chance against anything in the long run is if the black family stays together. Not just the black family. You see the white Caucasian families, they stay together. You see the Asian family when they come to America, they stay together. You see the Spanish family when they come to America, they stay together. You see every other family when they come to America, they stay together. Hey, you could be talking to a Spanish lady right now and you're black and she likes you and she's probably having a good time with you. The moment a Spanish dude comes and says that Spanish language to her, off she goes. Because they understand the code of family. They don't have it written in any book. They just understand. It's only in the black family where you see people just tearing each other apart. Saying, I don't want this. This black men are shit. Black women ain't shit. Black men ain't shit. The black fathers, nah, they should all be in jail. The black mom are not doing what they're supposed to do. The black kids are all criminals. It's only in the black community that you see people being torn apart. And you know who's doing it? The black people by themselves. And that's why when Kevin Samuel came, he was saying black family needs to come together. Okay? That's the foundation of anything you want to build. If you want to build anything in the long run, the black family needs to stay together. And he would tell them, go back to your husband. Go back to your dad. Go back to the men in your family. I need black women to start walking around like they need black men. I need black men walking around like they need black women. That's it. That's the main reason why he got famous. Because the system that we have in place has failed the black family. Hello? The system that we have in place has incarcerated more black men than ever. The system that we have in place has fostered black women, has fostered more divorce of from black men more than ever. The system that we have in place has fostered black kids taken away from their parents more than ever. Hello, that's the system that we have. That's why when Kevin Samuel came out, he gained so much traction. In fact, I don't know if he self-appointed himself, but at some point, people were like, you are the Godfather. It was a persona, well needed, well fitting, and he did a job, or a damn good job, taking on that persona. Hello? He did a damn good job taking on that persona. I have a little write-up here that I want to just share with you guys, which is the relationship between Kevin Samuel and the Godfather. The Godfather, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and based on Mario Puzo's novel, presents a rich tapestry of themes including power, loyalty, family, and the American dream. At its core, the movie explores the intricacies of Italian Roman philosophy, particularly in the context of a failed democratic society where traditional values clash with modernity. Protection of families in a failed democratic society. The Godfather portrays a world where the promise of the American dream is often elusive, especially for marginalized communities like Italian immigrants. In such a society where institutions fail to provide security and justice for everyone, the Corleone family emerges as a powerful entity capable of protecting its own interest. This protection extends not only to physical safety but also to preserving the honor and integrity of the family name. The second thing to look at is the need for the Godfather persona in a failed democratic system. In a society where the democratic institutions are perceived as effective or corrupt, there arises a vacuum of authority and stability. The Godfather persona fills this void by embodying traits of leadership, strength, and wisdom. Don Vito Corleone, the titular character, commands respect and loyalty, not through democratic processes, but through a code of honor and a system of reciprocity, eye for an eye. He provides a sense of order and justice within his sphere of influence, offering protection to those who pledge allegiance to him while demanding loyalty and obedience in return. Now, attributing the Godfather persona to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels, a contemporary figure known for his controversial views on relationship and masculinity, has been likened to a modern-day version of the Godfather persona. In some circles, like Don Vito Corleone, Samuel presents himself as a mentor figure, dispensing advice on matters of personal and professional success, particularly within the realm of romantic relationship. He cultivates a sense of authority and expertise, offering guidance to his followers and expecting deference in return. However, it's important to know that while there may be surface level similarities between the Godfather character and Kevin Samuels persona and Kevin Samuels, The context in which they operate are vastly different. The Godfather exists within a fictionalized mafia world where violence and coercion are often used to maintain power. On the other hand, Kevin Samuels operates in the realm of self help and personal development, albeit with controversial methods and viewpoints. While both figures command authority and influence, their approaches are moral frameworks diverge significantly. So, the Godfather film series delves into the complexity of powers, family, and tradition within the backdrop of a full democratic society. The Godfather persona emerges as a symbol of authority and protection in a world where the promises of the American dream ring hollow for many, while contemporary figures like Kevin Samuels may echo elements of this persona in different contexts. Now, I've said this over and over again because every time I post a video, there's always some cliche guy that's like, oh, you're trying to be the Walmart version of Kevin Samuel. This is the part where I get to ask you guys, is it the person that matters? Or is it the message that the person is conveying that matters? Gotta ask yourself that. The message of Kevin Samuel has been a message that's been reiterated over the years. And when he came, he did his own portion. However, the issues are still there. So someone else needs to take the reign and continue the message. It's not about Kevin Samuels. It's not about the person delivering it. Hell, I believe if Kevin Samuel is still here, he would say something like, I'm a soldier. If I'm at the war front and you see me fighting, if I ever get dropped, if I get shot and I get dropped, do not stand there and cry over my body. Pick up my gun and keep fighting. That is what someone like Kevin Samuel would say. And I strongly believe and stand by that. I post a lot of Kevin Samuel videos on my page. In fact, a lot of the most viewed videos on my page are Kevin Samuel's video because I believe in his wisdom. I believe in the messages passing across. His message has always been the black family to come back together. Men should walk around the world black men should walk around the world like they need black women, and black women should start walking around the world like they need black men. He gives the same message he gives to women to men. He dishes out the same thing. Realistic, logical, no sugarcoating. Men need to own responsibilities. Women need to own their responsibilities. And in the world that we live in, where we have a lot of people running towards democracy, in the future, there will always be repercussion. There will always be repercussion. If your husband offends you and the first thing you're seeking is divorce because the system asks you to divorce him and not encourages you to try and work things out, and that's the option you're taking, we'll keep having this situation of one woman with 50 baby daddies. We'll keep having this issue of people being raised in families and they don't even know who they are. We'll keep having all this issue of dysfunctional adults because we are broken at the root level, which is the family level. Now, like I said, this whole Godfather thing is not about the violence aspect. It's about the philosophy, the justice, and the strengthening of family. that revolves around it. I'm not even focused on the business and the ascension of power of it. The ascension of power of it is just for you to know how the Godfather started. But the most important thing, the most important theme of the most important theme of the Godfather is the theme of family. It's the code of family. It's the law of family. People sticking together no matter what and making things work and not allowing outsiders to spill into family, not allowing intruders to spill into family. Because keep in mind, a house or any house that's divided against itself will never stand. Any house divided against itself will not stand. I heard that from Bishop T.D. Jakes. I believe he came from the Bible. And every time we stay divided against ourselves, we can't win, we can't stand, we can't thrive. Every time the black man is divided against the black woman, every time the black woman is divided against the black man, every time the black children are divided against their black parents, we can't stand. We will always fall apart. That's the moral of the Godfather. And that's why I said we will take a look at some stuff and see if we really do need the Godfather persona. You know, we've spoken about what led to it, spoken about so many things. Buonasera. I had a whole note. Hell, I didn't even go through my notes. Because, like I said, I was just thinking, I did not know what angle I was going to take this. And I had to pray to God for wisdom because I wanted this to be as profound as possible. I wanted to be an eye-opening moment. I want it to be a moment where our consciousness is raised and we understand that we are all we got. You and I, that's all we have. The system is not looking at all that. The system is looking at something else. However, within the system, you and I, that's all we have. If you can understand that, and you understand that all we need to do is just find a way to make things work, instead of, oh, I don't like your tone, I want a divorce. Instead of, oh, I'm suspecting you, I want a divorce. Instead of, oh, I think he's cheating on me, let me go sleep with his best friend. Oh, black men ain't shit, black women ain't shit, black people ain't shit, the black father, nah, black mom, oh. Instead of not having the fear of God, remember the structure, God, father, mother, kid. The kid answers to the mom answers to the dad answers to God. And that's why God laid down his life for the father, for the world, technically. And the dad lays down his life for the mom. And the mom lays down her life for the kids. In fact, that's not the way. It's usually the way of. This is how it is. If it comes to the kid's life or the mom won't even think twice before she sacrifices herself for her kid. But she will think twice before she sacrifices herself for her husband. When it comes to sacrificing the dad's life or the mom's life or the dad wouldn't even think twice. He would just sacrifice himself for the mom and the kid. And the same thing, God did not think twice before he sent down his son to die for. Now, a lot of people will say that's some patriarchal stuff, that's some colonizer stuff and this. You can say so many things. However, always keep in mind that every message you get, You don't have to take everything, but there's some wisdom in it that you can take and filter through the rest. You don't need to take everything. If it doesn't benefit you, you don't even have to take. You don't have to listen to this video. But if you have come this far, then maybe there's something that you're yearning for. Maybe it's togetherness. Maybe it's just seeing our families thrive. Maybe it's just seeing people just being happy. Like if a lot of people are just depressed because people just walk through it thinking I'm never going to find love. You know, in the Godfather world, the father usually approves of who the daughter marries. And now that role is like it's been taken away. However, the dysfunctional part of it is when you see this woman choose for themselves, it never lasts. Because every time they choose based on tingling sensations. They choose based on, man, it's giving butterflies. But when the father is choosing for the daughter, he's choosing based on longevity. He's looking at the fact that, does it work? Is he active? Is he going to protect my daughter? Because I've been protecting my daughter all my life. Is he going to do all this? Can he stand the test of post-apocalyptic occurrences? Like the dad is looking at so many things, not butterflies and tingling sensations. And if you look into tingling sensations, you're going to have 50 baby daddies because you get tingling sensations every 5 minutes. And you can't control it. God help us. Let me see if I skipped anything, because I think I've said so many things. I said we're going to look into the birth, the life, and the death of Don Corleone. Not just Michael Corleone. We've seen how Michael Corleone was transformed from his democratic ideology into joining the world of family. We took a look at the world of the story. We took a look at the philosophy and justice, that the Godfather is someone of justice. Okay, the Godfather is someone of justice, and not just some bloodthirsty mafia mugo. He wants justice, eye for an eye. They broke your daughter's bone, we break their bone. Even though Bonasera wants them dead, he doesn't want them dead. He wants eye for an eye. And we see the lifestyle. The Godfather in the movie, he's someone who loves life. I've said this before. You need to love life. This is something I just spoke about. You need to love life. That's one of the greatest law of the universe. Just loving life. This life has so many things in stock, so many resources. And if you don't love it, it's not going to gift you with it. It's a law of attraction. I said this over and over again. You can't attract what you don't love. If you love life, life will just unleash all its blessings on you. And you can't talk about, oh, I don't like black men, I don't like black women, because the moment you keep saying that, you can't attract what you don't like. Oh, I don't love men, I don't love women, I think women ain't shit, women lie all the time, I don't want to be around them, I'm going my own way, men go their own way. The moment you're thinking like that, you can't attract love into your life. It's the simple law of attraction. Every time you walk into a place, you got to walk in with an open arms. You're embracing everything. Embracing everything. Embracing life in its fullness. Embracing love. Embracing wealth. Embracing wisdom. Embracing knowledge. Embracing understanding. Embracing God. Embracing the goodness of life. Good health. Abundance. Everything. Everything. You're embracing and you're affirming it. Because it's the only way you have access to things that I can't explain it. I can't explain it, because I can tell you got to work hard. Yeah, you have to work hard. But there's a limit to that because you're a human being. There's a limit to your strength. There's a limit to how much time you have. There's a limit to so many things. However, the law of the universe, when you embrace it, oh, the magic begins to happen. The magic begins to happen. And you could embrace it with affirmations and so many things. Oh, real quick, let me just talk about this. I'm really not I'm not so big on marketing my book, but this can help someone out there. This is my book. It's titled Legacy Beyond This Wall. It's a book on poetry and affirmation. Legacy Beyond This Wall. It's on Amazon. It has a lot of inspirational poetry in it, a lot of insightful poetry, a lot of fictional and non-fictional poetry, and affirmations. When I was talking about loving life, it just struck me. And that's why one of the ways you can embrace the universe and all it needs to offer you, or all it has to offer you, is by affirming it. And this book has over 300 affirmations that you can read to yourself. Over 300 affirmations that you can use to affirm great life into yourself. Great life. Great life. Okay? Great life. I'm going to read some to you. I'm capable of making difference in my own life. I have the power to bring happiness and light into any situation. I am deserving of a life filled with love, success, and prosperity. I am confident in my own worth and abilities. I choose to live life with purpose and meaning. I am worthy of a life filled with peace and happiness. I am capable of making my dreams a reality. I have the power to create a bright future for myself. I am deserving of a life filled with abundance and success. I am confident in my own journey and embrace all challenges and successes. I embrace all challenges and successes. I embrace all challenges and successes. I am deserving of a life filled with love, happiness, success, and abundance, and I manifest it every day. You can't not get to the point where you don't, you want to embrace everything. Okay, you want to embrace everything. And this is a book that you need to have. You need to study it. You need to affirm it. Affirm positivity into your life. Like I said, I'm not really that big into going out and marketing stuff, but you could get a copy of this book on Amazon. It will completely transform your mindset. Let's go back to The Godfather. Let's go back to The Godfather. So, we spoke about the world of Godfather and how Michael was transformed, because we saw Michael being transformed right before our eyes from democracy to a demagogue, from being allowing the system to run its course to really transforming and doing what is right and bringing swift justice to those who wrong you. Now, I'm not saying this is what you should all be doing. I'm just saying it's worth looking into. Because why is it that this thing's gain traction all of a sudden? It's because there's a problem somewhere. And if there's anything I would call for, it's for people to stick together. It's for families to stick together. It's for people to find a way to resolve family issues, so we can have at least our families back at the most foundational level. One question I need you all to ask yourself is, would our world be better if families stick together? Men and women listening to this right now, do you think our world would be a better place if families were to stick together instead of everyone divorcing and men going their own way and children breaking away from family? Would our world be a better place if families were to stick together through thick and thin? I need you all to answer that in your mind. And if you think, whatever you think the answer is, make a decision based off that. And I'd like to talk about the death of Don Corleone. The death of Don Corleone was like a beautiful poetry. When he died, he died, the last word he uttered was, "Life is beautiful." And Michael was there when he died, his son, who had become the godfather. And Michael thought to himself that he has never heard Don Corleone speak about death. Perhaps, maybe it was out of respect for death, but he had never heard him speak about death. All that he speaks about was life. Life is a blessing. Life is good. We can fix this. We'll get this done. Remember I said Don Corleone was introduced to us as a problem solver. That's what Godfather does. And in my own opinion, that's what the persona was doing. The persona Kevin Samuel was doing. Fixing what he believes is a fundamental problem, most especially in the black community. Asking black men and black women to start walking around earth like we all need each other. So, when the Godfather died in the novel, he died saying life is beautiful. He never mentioned anything about death out of respect for it. And also, Mike said something very profound. He said, everything that the Godfather did, when he said, I'll reason with him, I'll make him an offer he can refuse, we're gonna get this done, be my friend, it was out of personal, being taking things personal. In fact, it got to a point where it transformed from the role of the Godfather to God himself, because there's a portion of the book at the very beginning of the book where it was mentioned that there is no problem too big for the Godfather to fix. He can fix every problem. He doesn't complain. He doesn't say my hands are tied. He will fix everything. He will solve the problem, and he will give. He can guarantee a good life, and that's why people self-appointed him. I have some favorite quotes from the movie that I would like us to take a look at, if time permits us. This is a very long section. By the way, the next video that I'm planning to work on and break down is I'm going to do the Clone Tyrone, because when I saw the movie, there's so many things in the movie that I think needs to be discussed. I'm going to talk about the Clone Tyrone in one of my podcasts. I'm going to talk about The Matrix. And also, if you guys have any movies that you want me to talk about, feel free to make a suggestion. I will do the study and just have a podcast section around it where we talk about everything. You know, the movie, the philosophy, the breakdown, the world of the story, the characters, how everyone evolved, what the narrative is all about. We will talk about everything. So if you have any suggestion, feel free to drop it below. But the two movies that I'm doing next is the Clone Tyrone. I'm going to do The Matrix. I think I have two more that I need to just be very clear on, that I really want to talk about these movies. But those two movies, I am definitely talking about those two movies, and I need you all to stay tuned. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you are clicking the subscribe button, so you know when my next podcast is dropping. Like, you need to know when it's dropping ASAP. If you think you learned something from this video, feel free to share with your friends. This video is not encouraging or inciting anyone to take any action of violence against any group of people. It's just for us to just take a deep dive into the thoughts, the mindset, the philosophy of a world that was replacing another world because one world wasn't functioning or giving people what it promised them. I've had it in mind for months, to just make this video, and I'm finally happy and I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful that I can let things out and we can see this together. We can see the value, the philosophy, and everything governing the Godfather world. I hope you guys have learned something. I hope I expanded your consciousness in some respect. I hope you have questions pondering on your mind. If there's anything on your mind, feel free to share it in the comment section. And also, like I said, two videos that I know I'll be breaking down in my next podcast would be The Clone Tyrant. So if you want to see those movies, now's the time to go see the movies, because spoilers ahead. You've been warned. Don't come on my page and say, oh, you just spoiled it for us. I'm not going to even listen to all that. And the other one I want to talk about is The Matrix. Very profound movie. Knowledge, free will, are we being controlled? Are we being controlled, or are we living in a simulation? Those are the kind of topics, those are the kind of questions that we will be tackling in my next video. So if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, if you're not yet subscribed to this podcast, feel free to click the subscribe button, share this video, and share the next video that I'll be making. And I'll be seeing you guys in my next video. So take care, everyone. Peace and love to you all. Bye.